Amy Whitehead, everybody.
Hi everyone. Yes, it's nice to see you all. It's nice to see faces, real faces. Not that I don't see faces, but faces in real time. So this is all very good, and it's lovely to see you all here. And I'm very sorry about my tardiness. This is not normal. But right. So what I'd like to talk to you today, a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and material religion. You must all know by now that I do material religion. That's my thing, and I'm also getting now more into the turn to things. So the ontological turn to things. So you can see it's sort of reflected in the title of my talk. So I'm going to present some of my research, play with some theories and ideas, and end with some questions about what you guys think and how perhaps some of the theories that I present can be applied to your own studies. That would be, or to maybe astrology more broadly. So I'm curious to get some feedback for this. Right. So material religion. It's a field that's emerged mainly within the last decade. I would say really the last 15 years. But I think I'll say the last decade because there was a journal that came out that was first published in 2005, and that's Material Religion, the Journal of Art, Objects, and Belief. So that journal sort of heralded the beginning of this phase. So material religion is, it's where text-based studies of official versions of religion, they're joined by diverse approaches to the lived realities of religion, or as you can see here, everyday religion. Material religion works with the fundamental idea that the things of religions, they aren't secondary, so they're not just objects to be relegated or marginalized or pushed to the side. They're primary aspects of religion. And of course you can see some examples here. We're looking at ritual, ceremony, performance, sacred space, architecture, pilgrimage. A lot of the things that you all are studying in the MA will fall very nicely into the camp of material religion. Okay. So just to give you, just to sort of get your brain a bit of visual stimulus there. So material religion. Here are some examples. Can we see that very well?
Yeah, you can push on it.
Sorry, yeah, just because this is quite a, I don't know if that will help it. That's better, yeah, okay. So here it is, just some visual stimulus, and any of us here could probably add 1,000 more photos to this little repertoire to demonstrate how religion, belief, ideas about the cosmos, whatever, are expressed in culture. But of course, material religion is problematic, as you might have guessed. And it's problematic because, both historically and contemporarily, objects have been and continue to be problematic. It's problematic mainly because of dualism, but I'll get back to that in just a minute. And of course, historically, I think some of the big changes that took place, like 8th century Byzantium, the split between the Greek Orthodox and the Western Catholic tradition, and of course the Protestant Reformation, that heralded a massive change in how things were perceived, religious things and objects were perceived. So, religious objects we saw in the Protestant Reformation and in the Byzantium sort of debate of iconoclasts and iconodules, that objects can either provoke attack or they can be jealously guarded and cared for meticulously. So you get this range of extreme responses to religious objects. So the point is it's not. It's precisely because religious objects are problematic that they warrant so much attention. So it's not necessarily that religious objects are not powerful or powerful. I think the point is that they, let me think, get my head together. It's not, the fact that they're powerful cannot be debated. That's undoubtable. It's just in what way that power is perceived. And of course, for many people, whether those people are academics or, religious people who are, religious participants, object touch and engagement invokes thoughts of a pagan past or a primitive alterity. So to have a relationship with a thing, especially in Protestant cultural discourses, which tend to be mainly Northern European, enough, we see that object engagement harkens back to yes, it's problematic. It's problematic. So but we're not going to focus on the problem. We're going to focus on the good things that it does for us in allowing us to change, move forward, and evolve in the way that we understand culture. And not only culture, but the things that make up our environment, our built environment, artifacts, things that we create. So material religion, it visibly highlights the relationships between religions and place or locale. It highlights the unique features of religions as they're practiced, collectively or individually. It also highlights diversity within monolithic categories. So you can have Catholics in England and Catholics in Spain, but how that Catholicism is actually played out looks very different. Very different. In England, Catholicism is more conservative, shall we say. There's less touch of statues. People are a bit more, embarrassed almost by touching statues. But, in Spain, for example, Catholic statues are engaged fully. There's a real sort of, corporeal embodiedness to statues that make people just more, passionate toward them, I think. And it's permitted and it's fine. The fact is that religion is inescapably entangled with material culture. I think that's the overriding, underlying position here. Now, vernacular religion, if we take material religion and we marry it with vernacular religion, as most of you will be aware of vernacular religion as an approach through Nick's work and through Marion Bowman's work, and Leonard Primiano, who inspired Marion Bowman, he describes vernacular religion as personal and private, and tells us that it is by definition religion as it is lived, as human beings encounter, understand, interpret, and practice it. Thus, vernacular religion emphasizes everydayness, so what people do in relationship with, but sometimes opposed to, doctrine. It also emphasizes the relationships between people, objects, and places. So instead of seeing religion as something that exists on the transcendent sort of realm out here, we're looking at full packages of religion, and that includes things, and that includes ideas, and that includes doctrine, and that includes practice, and that includes what people do and how they relate. So it's all very complex. Gone are the days where, as in the Victorian era, you just boxed and categorized everything. But vernacular religion is messy. It's fantastically messy territory. I was in Ireland recently, and a woman told me that she got up in the morning, a woman I sat next to on the plane, right? I'm always doing ethnographic research. I'm always talking to people and finding out stuff. And she said, well, I get up in the morning and I pray to the goddess, but then in the afternoon I'll pray to Mary. And I said, well, okay, all right, doesn't that cause a problem? But anyway, I didn't say that. I just listened and thought, yeah, this is vernacular religion. This is this is what people do. This is what people do, and it's not tidy. Right? So vernacular religion, it emphasizes religious expression, the relationships between belief and practice. Ways of speaking about or referring to religious phenomena. And it also emphasizes, and I think this is very important, interpretation as opposed to fixed categories. So we're looking at religion as a fluid, sort of volatile happening, something that can't be boxed and categorized. And I think this is the point. So this might be laboring the point a little bit, but no, actually that's not laboring the point. This is important. As an approach, it contains the possibility of breaking down the boundaries between epistemology, which is what we believe about the world, and ontology. And ontology implies, being in the world, the ways that we are in the world, and that also reflects practice and, you know. And vernacular religion, it also points to the possibility of understanding religion as action, right? And that action can include what people wear, So you can see that material religion and vernacular religion are very closely intertwined in their approach. So I want to give you now an example of unofficial Catholicism. Right? It's official, it's sanctioned, but it's also unofficial. The practices are very much unofficial. Now, I've shown you this. This was my field work, and this was undertaken between 2007 and 11. And the field work dealt with the divine feminine in statue form. So the Glastonbury goddess and a statue of the Virgin Mary in Spain, in Andalusia. And she's just there just to say that, just to give her a bit of homage and say, yes, you were part of my research, but we're not going to talk about the Glastonbury goddess today. Okay, we're going to go on to talk about Spanish Catholicism. But there were definite parallels, not by any stroke of the imagination am I saying that these two are the same. There's not sameness here, but there are definite parallels and similarities in how these two statues are petitioned and approached and related to and with, and for similar reasons as well, be it fertility issues, relationship problems, financial matters, you name it. Right, so I like to always start with maps. Map of Spain. This is the region that that I did research in and amongst, and that's in Alcalá, a village called Alcalá, and it's about 50 kilometers northwest of Cádiz. Northeast of Cádiz. My direction's right. And this is the village of Alcalá itself, which, as you can see, you've got the Sierra behind, and it's one of the villages in the Ruta de los Pueblos Blancos, so the route of the white villages. There's an up close, sort of closer, so it's quite a small village. It's only got about 8,000 people. Now this is the shrine of the Virgin of Alcalá, and this shrine sits 7 kilometers from the town itself. It's not a church. There's no priest here. This is a shrine dedicated to the Virgin, and the Virgin is said to own, not said to own, her name is literally on the deeds of this land that surrounds, it's on the deeds to the actual building itself and to the land, and of course there are olive trees and cows and all sorts of things that she owns those as well. She is the owner of those, and she generates revenue, a lot of revenue for the people. This is inside the shrine complex, and a lot of people make pilgrimages to the shrine, and when they arrive, they've got these nice places where you actually go have a nap and be sort of fed and watered and have a cup of tea and relax. It's very cool in there. It's a nice little oasis outside of the heat of the Andalusian sun, which even in the winter can be quite full on. Now this is inside the shrine itself. You can see on either side that ex-votos line the walls. And ex-votos, there are some amazing ex-votos. Some of them are 500 years old, as old as 500 years old. You see locks of hair, you see bloody bandages, you see all manner of things framed inside the shrine. And, my favorite one of these ex-votos is a man. For any of you who don't know what an ex-voto is, it's a painting where some sort of tragedy is depicted, and you'll often have an image of the Virgin who sits up in the corner because that tragedy was somehow averted or avoided. And so my favorite one is a painting of a man who survived a Napoleonic firing squad. That was fabulous, right? These are, and this is seen as, for local sort of folklorists and academics, this is seen as a shrine of living memories. It's full. It's a record, a historical record. Now, the Virgin, the statue, right? I'm going to show you her in just a moment. She's referred to as she, never it. She's, according to locals, particularly miraculous. She's interacted with daily by both the shrine caretaker and devotees, so she's often given flowers, offerings, pictures, ex-votos. She's thought to be over 500 years old. There's evidence that she's quite a lot older than that even, that the statue itself is quite a lot older. She was coronated in the 1990s as the Queen of the Virgins, and other virgin statues from Andalusia were brought into her presence to witness her crowning. And the crown, of course, is made from melted gold of fingers of devotees. And, of course, there are celestial connections, and I've put this in there specifically for you guys. It's, she's the Queen of Heaven, and the crescent moon that you can see here on the front points to a past, a lineage of divine feminine deities, where the crescent moon symbolized fertility or pointed toward fertility, and she kind of kept that when Mary took over a lot of those roles. So this is the inner chamber, and you can see here this is a solid silver, an extremely heavy mini temple called the templete. And on the top of the templete there's also an angel blowing a trumpet toward the heavens. Now, I want to tell you a bit more about this case study. There is as well within this cult of the Virgin, and it is a cult of the Virgin, there's a group of women called the Camaristas. And Camarista translated means chambermaid, or people who would take care of the chamber of the Virgin, so that, right? And what they do, they're a group of about 8 to 10 women, and they sort of work within the Hermandad. And the Hermandad is sort of like the brotherhood, which also includes women, but it's the people responsible for seeing to the financial affairs and to to make sure everything ticks over nicely within the shrine, and within the Camaristas, now in the past it would have been only women who were virgins would have been able, but apparently those are sparse on the ground these days. So now they're just women who are respected within the community for some reason. Okay. They're responsible for, and this is really interesting, they're responsible for ritually bathing, cleansing, and changing the Virgin's clothes. The priest, who is in the village, by the way, in the church, he is he elects what color she will wear. So because people always comment on the color of her robes, because she has several different robes. Some of those are 400 and 500 years old, always adorned in gold, and beautiful garments. And so he will choose the color. No male is allowed to be present during the changing of the Virgin. And for that matter, there's a hierarchy within the Virgin where a hierarchy within the Camaristas, whereby younger, less experienced Camaristas have to stand behind a sheet. So they hold a sheet up like this and turn their heads. And behind that sheet is where the women who've been working with the statue for so many years, they will go in and they will, take off the Virgin's garments, because nobody's allowed to see her disrobed. So, yes, and they all say that they go into a trance-like state during the bathing process, a trance-like state. And, even telling me the story, tears, were in one woman in particular got very emotional when she was talking to me. And they sang me one of the songs that they sing to the statue in the middle of the changing. And they all got very emotional. And for that matter, the hair on my arms was standing up too, because it was very emotive. It was amazing, very intimate, very feminine sort of thing. And yes, of course, they reported seeing tears on the Virgin's face. Another part of the case study is the Santero. And the Santero, he's the shrine guardian. And he isn't permitted to leave the shrine, I should have said unattended, but he hardly ever leaves. He's responsible for the care, the upkeep and protection of the Virgin and the grounds and her jewelry and her gold and everything that she wears, because she's worth a lot of money. And so he's responsible for taking care of her. Now, he has a day-to-day relationship with the Virgin. He goes in, he tells me that sometimes she gets angry at him for killing a mosquito, for example. That would annoy her because it would be unkind. And he is a kind of gatekeeper to the chamber where the Virgin sits, because she She has a lot of gold and what have you. He gets a bit nervous when people come in. And sometimes if he's just I've seen him in a foul mood, simply just say, no, you can't go up there, because he didn't feel like it. And people, devotees, will come in and say, I need to go see my Virgin. And you see my Virgin, and he's like, no. I was like, well, that seemed a bit unfair, but, you know, and he must have his reasons. Maybe, you have to realize people know things that I might not know. You know, maybe he doesn't trust that particular person for rumors. Who knows? Who knows anything? So anyway, so this is the Virgin's mantle, and this is one of the newer ones, one of the newer mantles made, and it was made by a group of nuns. And it gets consecrated and blessed before it's placed on the body of the Virgin. And it's a very special sort of deal, because this is how people interact with the Virgin, by using this particular garment. So what they'll do, and that's me, by the way, is they'll take the back of the mantle and they put it over their head, and then underneath there it's very dark and almost mutes, because the mantle is very heavy, so it mutes out. You can't hear much that's going on. It really does become a private world. And there are little notes tucked under the backs of her feet and things like that. So people go and have very intimate sort of relationships. Now, these are the rings that get put on her finger, and the Virgin is in receipt of so many different rings that, the Santero has to change her rings once a week, so that every ring that comes into the shrine as an offering has a chance to be on her statue body. Okay. So, the Virgin of Alcalá, she's not only treated as a person, but a powerful person. People give her offerings. People enter into negotiations with her. And the Santero tells us that if she doesn't want something to happen, you go in and say, I need to get a better job. And that if she doesn't want that to happen, then it won't happen. So, and he has absolutely no, I hate to say the word respect for theology, because we know that theologically this is wrong, but he told me once, God doesn't help people, she does, and points toward the Virgin. God has no business, with people, she does. So this for him is a thing. So she is treated as if she is power inherent in matter. And people do talk about how her facial expressions change. Okay? And there's a good close-up of her face. And she has these lidless eyes. I'm writing a chapter about this at the moment, about touch. And part of touch, because you can't sort of isolate senses. Part of touch is seeing. And she's got, and I'm going to bring Darshan into this, because she's got these lidless seeing eyes, and people do talk about how her eyes, that transmit things to them. And of course, just wanted to show you the templete and the angel on the top, and this is during one of her romarias, so processions. Now, the argument that I made, so the evidence drawn out of my field work, was that religious objects can be more than representational or symbolic. I think that's fairly well proven. They can be sensual, embodied, while being tangible, and there's a lot of things that go on here that those old constructs they just don't really seem to address effectively. So in these contexts, the relationships that take place between statues and devotees, they show that instead of being mere objects, statues of the goddess and the Virgin are subjective, relational participants in ceremony, rites, and ritual. So now we're talking about objecthood, then subjecthood. So how am I doing for time? Is anyone timing me? Oh, right, thanks. Yeah, there it is. Obvious. Right, okay. And the theories that I drew out and continue to draw from this field work, because it's been endlessly inspiring. I developed and applied new approaches to animism, and that's relations between humans and other than humans, and fetishism, so relations between humans and artifacts, to specifically address European religious involvement with statues and offerings. And the concept that came out of this is relationality. Now, I didn't create that word, but it's relational engagements radicalized when we're dealing with objects. Another theory, subjects and objects mutually create each other as they act towards one another. In these co-creative acts of relating, a multiplicity of ontological possibilities emerge which challenge commonly contested yet still productive dualisms of subject and object, mind and matter, spirit and matter, nature and culture, official and unofficial, and it goes on, immanence and transcendence. I mean, it goes on. Now, expounding on that, the new animism, it's dependent on three things, right? Relationships, performances, and the moment. It's a practice, a co-inspired form of active mutual relating that emerges from the unique, personal, even intimate relationships that take place between persons, human persons and other than human persons. And it advances the material culture turn to things because I think the material, because it's more, obviously, because it's more concerned with ontologies instead of dualities, agency or epistemologies. And I think agency is a word, and I'll challenge agency in just a moment. So here we have, and it's a debate that I'm beginning to add to with my new fetishism research on called the ontological turn to things. Okay, I'm hoping everyone's still with me at this phase, at this point. Okay, now personhood, we're looking at personhood, so thinking about statues, thinking about how statues can be are treated as persons. It's relational. Not all things are personal or are persons all the time. Personhood, it isn't reliant on human intentionality, but it emerges as a result of treatment. Right. An animist ontological understanding that suggests we live in a world full of potential persons, or the living world is the way Graham Harvey described personhood. So, in essence, my work is a critique of modern discourses, whereby mind is prized over matter, transcendence over immanence, subjects over objects, the sacred over the profane, and of course, official versions of religion are prized over unofficial folk or vernacular ones. And of course, this implies that this gets all messed up. So if a stone can be a person, it's not going to be down here on on the bottom of the hierarchy, is it? So we want to mess all that up. So there are problems with agency in animist discourses. Agency is a term that everyone likes to sort of bandy about because, Tim Ingold might say that agency is another way of saying spirit. It's another excuse, he would say, saying, it's taken the place of spirit. So instead of spirit in matter, people say agency in matter because they really don't know what's going on. They don't have a way to frame what's going on. And that would be Ingold's critique of agency, and I quite like that. I think that it works nicely because it doesn't account for that which goes on. I'm not sure any of us really can account for that which goes on, but we try. So personhood, typically agency is human centric, and it's concerned with the social. Okay, personhood, in contrast, it's not human. In contrast, it isn't human centric, but it suggests a fair and distributed significance be given to all persons, human or not. So we're sort of redressing the balance. We're taking a step back. We're saying, okay, we share the world with things, natural things, man-made things. Right? It's sort of, critiquing that understanding of the world. And, and of course this is complementary to studies of material religion and vernacular religion, because now we're dealing in relationships. Right? And agency. Agency was used as a monolithic category to account for that which is not understood object. So I talked about that. Another thing about agency is that, the people who are saying there's agency there, or there's they're claiming some amount of authority. And we have to look, who... This goes back, this is a post-colonial critique really that I'm working within as well, because the Portuguese traders and colonists that went to Nigeria and various places, they labeled what they saw the Africans doing as fetishes, and it's not fair. It's not fair, So agency, another thing about agency. Within academic discourses, agency is safe. It's safe. It's a nice little safe place to box and category yet again, right? So that way humans stay in control of the unpredictability that maybe a fetish or some other object may have, right? And, an agency also points toward metaphor and representation. So again, we're talking about duality. We're just negating the idea that things can actually be relational. So, but what then are fetish things, right? Now, when we talk about the fetish, when we begin to talk about the fetish, we're thinking about hair, bone, mud, conches, wood, stone, gold, sticks, and other things, the things of the earth, the muck of the earth, the profanity, the profane earth. But sometimes fetishes, they're housed, they're watered, and they're fed. They can be amulets, talismans, sentimental objects. I think the point is that me and some other scholars, we're trying to expand these discourses to include the fetish discourse as a way of understanding power inherent in matter, the way that or if not inherent in matter, what are the dynamics involved there? Fetish things, they're created to witness contractual agreements. A fetish thing, I think, can be a statue. Fetish things can be gifts or offerings because they have some sort of currency or value. And fetish, the discourses surrounding the fetish are very much about value. A fetish is an extension of the fetishist. So if I wear a necklace for 20 years and that has taken my energy, as some people might want to say, it's taken my energy, then that perhaps has become a fetishistic object. It's got something of me in it. My sister recently inherited a necklace from my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother was a murderer who fled one state to the next because she'd stabbed and killed a pregnant woman out of vengeance. I'm not proud of that. But the woman had a necklace. And that recently passed on to my sister. And my sister refuses to touch it, to wear it. She's like, no, that woman was mad. But she won't touch the necklace. And I think this is profoundly interesting. Okay, so other than human persons, fetish things. We're weird in my family, let's put it that way. But that went a bit beyond weird, didn't it? So, right. So other than human persons, fetish things are fetish persons. So, where do we draw the line? We're thinking about personhood, we're thinking about fetishes. Thai tree ordination. The tree is ordained so that it doesn't get cut down. So the tree now is a monk because there's lots of forestation going on in Thailand, deforestation, I should say, in Thailand. So if a tree is ordained, this is activism, but the tree has become a monk. The tree is now a person, and it cannot be cut down. Of course, Ganesh, my favourite Hindu deities. So, and here we have Hinamihi, which is the Maori meeting house in Clandon, the grounds of Clandon House here in England. And Hinamihi is not only a person. Hinamihi is a she, is a female person, and her role is to educate her people and other people as well. People, right? But she has a role. She is a body. She is a living thing. Hinamihi is a person. In La Iglesia del Carmen, we have El Nazareno, and this is in my husband's hometown of San Fernando in Spain. That's human hair. That's human hair on that statue, and it was given as an offering. So again, we're thinking, this is stuff, and what's it doing? Here we have a tree person. We have a cedar of Lebanon, and for those that you probably know, but cedars of Lebanon are the wood that's used to make religious statues, typically, because of its durability, because of its hardness, because of its properties and its qualities. Cedar of Lebanon was used to make the Virgin of Alcalá, example. So, religious materialities such as the Virgin, they not only mediate between a continuum of tensions that exist between official religion and folk or vernacular religion, with its local expression and traditional community roots, vernacular religious materiality, can also be powerful contenders, if not more significant than, official versions of religion. Because we can see the world is made up of stuff. People act, they create, they do things. This is what it's all about. But the fetish, or people have real problems with the fetish, and that's another reason why I like it. I have a provocative streak, and I like the fetish. It gets people going. Are all things fetish things? Of course not. But some are. And the fetish, it's a subset of animism, and critically recovered, it's particularly useful in addressing powerful matter in Western and other cultural discourses where things, are still very much relegated to subject and object. So we're filling in this big grey expanse of area that's between subject and object. What is there between? Life. So Peter Pels says fetish is animism with a vengeance. Its matter strikes back. Its relational diversity complements animist discourses through addressing the possibility that statues and other objects or places can have power independent of human agency. Okay. So in sum, you can read here, material and vernacular approaches to religion, animism, powerful fetish things, understandings of personhood. These advance the material culture turn out of modern comfort zones and into strange potentialities that lay in the borderlands, borderland ontologies between subject and object, and of course beyond the limits of agency. And Western religious objects, such as statues, they add a special dimension. So we're talking about religious studies, we're talking about religions and religious objects. They add a special dimension to material culture studies because we're talking about things with an X factor value. The value that a lot of anthropologists, for example, don't tend to kind of understand or be willing to understand and engage. Maybe that's changing, I don't know. But so some questions really. That's my presentation finished. Thanks for sitting with me through that. Agency, what do you think?
Amazing. Can I say that when I first bought the penthouse, Judy Hall bought me a Ganesh. I've never done it myself. You come and see him now. He's got so many gifts you can hardly see him. He's got a piece of chocolate skin there 3 years and none of his dairy.
You see? What happens to chocolate after that length of time? Yeah. So it has agency then.
It has enormous agency.
Or agency, but how are we describing
And
agency?
he is there with the eye stone, which is Nebuchadnezzar's gate to Marduk, the Lord of the universe, who put stars in heaven beside constellation. So he's the god of astrology.
Yes.
And Ganesh and the eye live together.
Yes.
And they've also got a little Japanese thing, but I didn't know who she was, but someone was here as a conference who was teaching in Tokyo. Oh, she said, it's the companion to the Buddha of the future, and she rides on a purple cloud. So that's Iceland's face. So they're all together. It's extremely what you're talking about.
Yes.
It happens.
Yeah, of course.
Nobody decided it's negative place.
But isn't it funny how these types of things kind of get pushed to the side and marginalised when people talk about what is religion or religious practice or this, that, or the other, that still maintains some sort of privileged position that hovers above culture, which is odd.
How did we get a shrine somewhere?
Yes, exactly.
So, can you talk more about applying the idea of other than human person to astrological symbols?
That's what I'm getting at. See, this is your arena, right? this is what I'm wanting. This is what I want you to do, right? Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Well,
etc. Yes. Let's do it.
It's interesting because it opens up the questions that we chew on here, which is the cultural relativism of astrology versus is there an absolute core to astrology?
Right.
So it's relative versus absolute.
Right.
And some scholars argue that astrology is just simply culturally relative. Whereas your, which I'm there with you, you know, your second question presupposes that it's got an absolute issue and therefore starts to explore that.
Yes.
And so my lecture straight after lunch actually picks up on that.
Oh,
quite
great.
nicely. So that's actually a nice
Lovely.
start. But
Yes.
also, Ron Taylor's work is, you know, deep light green spiritual, it fits into this, doesn't it?
It does, very much.
And it's Whitehead's becoming or being, so it's, and then that opens the door to complexity.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
No,
it's overlapped in many areas.
Yes, it's wonderful. And there's lots of, you know, well, you should do an article or something together.
Yes. I mean, it sort of it's the essence of phenomenology.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
Really, and the thing is, the greatest agency in the room at the moment has been that computer, which is really causing havoc. But that's the point that I make, is that that computer has just as much impact in the room as everybody else. Do you know?
That's exactly right.
And
That's right.
It's this idea that you have to be alive to have agency. Crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly, because it all figures in.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's a great question, Amy, your second question.
Thank you.
That's because it's a very provocative question.
Yes.
Because it just jumps over a whole argument and ignores it,
Which is great. It needs to be ignored because yeah. Excellent, thank you. Yeah.
Well, actually, to answer that question, or at least the 10th one, if you go back to the chain of being and you think about the astrological signatures of plants, for example.
Yes.
How did that come about that these plants were given those specific astrological signatures? You know, we're talking about physical evidence of astrology in the world. Well, this plant was ruled by Mars.
Right.
But then another way of thinking about it isn't just ruled by Mars, it actually is a shard of Mars.
Of Mars, exactly.
And the chain of being goes from being hierarchical into being this kind of multi-dimensional simultaneity.
Yes.
As opposed to this sort of Mars is lording over that one tiny garlic plant. It's like, no, that garlic plant is actually an emanation of Mars in the world.
Right. That's amazing, isn't it? That's absolutely amazing. I didn't know that, and that would add a fantastic, you know, that adds to the debate, you know, about, you know, and plants, of course, transmutable, and you know, what kind of materiality are they? You know, they come and they go, they're perishable, whatever, but they're material nonetheless, and they are. They have these direct sort of links and relationships. No, I mean it goes on and on, really. No, that's a very good point. Yes, thank you. Yeah, but you should build on that. Take it and do something with it. yeah. What else?
Excellent.
Oh, sorry, I've got one more.
Well, I was thinking about your sister's necklace.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I have a necklace that my husband bought me when we were in Africa, which is a beautiful necklace that has coral and beautiful silverwork and stones, and I cannot wear it.
Yes.
It kind of gives off something, I don't know if it's somebody dead or what it is. It's a very old necklace, but I cannot put it on.
I can't put it on.
This has negative agency for me.
Yes.
I don't know what to do with it. If I can't sell it because my husband gave it to me, at the same time, I just cannot wear it.
You can find somebody to clean it. There are rituals for that to clean it.
You can get them
You
clean.
can do it, and you all
Now,
kinds of.
does that override the right of the necklace? If the necklace has agency, do we have the right? This is ethics now.
This is ethics,
Ethics
yeah.
in the material world.
Oh,
Wow,
yes.
Bernadette, what a question. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely
but
right. So are you going to try and dominate, tame and control the necklace? I wouldn't say it's agency because it's got power inherent, right? So something's in there, absolutely, and Bernadette's absolutely right. So you dominate, tame and control it, or do you allow it to be and just respect its boundaries and don't go there? You know? Yes, very good. It's good, yes.
Ethics. Damn things.
Absolutely.
Because agency brings ethics with it.
It certainly does, yes.
They are linked. You cannot separate them.
Well, we're trying to debunk agency as well, though, so that would be to personhood. I think I would like to see personhood replace agency, because agency is too. So if personhood, then looking at the world, you know, is full of persons, stone persons, necklace persons, or whatever. Then there's definitely ethics that can quite like. Yes, very good. Wow. Sorry. What?
Yeah, because I knew somebody who had an African master, and it gave off a really quite a powerful negative vibe. It's not something you really want to pick up or do anything with.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the time, I never thought of, you know, can you basically neutralize it? But I think if it has personhood, you have to ask permission in a relationship with that.
Right.
Because it may be holding somebody else's energy.
Right. Oh,
Or it
absolutely.
may have its own energy. And
Yes.
sometimes those things can be cleared with ritual.
Yes.
Yes.
But you have to ask permission like anything else you do with anybody.
Exactly. Even taking in Spain, even taking a seashell, that's washed up on the beach, you need to ask permission to take that away.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that it's bad luck.
But I think there's cultures and mentalities that don't ask permission.
Of course.
Even of other people. So it's something that's gone.
This is a Western cultural dilemma as well, though, isn't it? It's this thing about, prizing over instead of respecting and being with and feeling and seeing and doing and intuiting. This is what I would sort of champion. So we've got to get back to, and probably most of you would as well. Sorry, did you?
Oh, I was thinking, it's just a comment. When you were talking about singing to the Virgin, I remember that, in Romanian funeral rites, you were singing to the dead person, you were singing to the corpse when you do the same thing, and you wash and prepare them for burial.
That's interesting.
And then you're singing, and I was thinking about this, whether there's an intuition or whether there's a recognition that the statue is either in a liminal state.
Right.
That maybe that it's like being dead,
Yes.
or
Yes.
I don't know.
And when
There
she's
seems
not
to
in
be a
her sort of full
parallel
glory, there does. Yes,
Yeah.
let's talk about that further.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good,
Excellent,
actually.
excellent.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Amy. Thank you.